Hello, welcome to the Nerdy Folks Podcast, a conversation about the nerdy things we love and the things that matter most. My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson. Great to have you all with me today. On this episode of the show, we will be talking about Star Wars the Acolyte. The exciting 2-episode premiere happened yesterday, and I am just so thrilled to be talking about some great Star Wars. I hope you all loved it as much as I did, because I really enjoyed it. It was a breath of fresh air. It was beautiful, but we'll get into that all soon enough. First off, though, let me talk about some news. As you know, Star Wars the Acolyte just premiered here on June 4th. That's going to be a weekly series. Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which is another 8-episode series, is coming out late in 2024, so look forward to that. This summer, we have Rings of Power Season 2 dropping on August 29th. Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim hitting theaters December 13th, and The Hunt for Gollum way out in 2026. So all kinds of fun things happening. Of course, we are still reading through Lord of the Rings, and after the Acolyte series is done, we'll be going back to that. Check out our website if you want to get into the conversation about all of these episodes. nerdyfolks.com is the website. You can also connect with us through our Facebook group, Nerdy Folks Facebook group. Yes, so let's dive into talking about the Acolyte. So what I did is I watched both episodes late into the night last night, and then I just wrote down my first thoughts. Number one, people were saying this show was like Andor. While I agree with them that the tone is more like Andor, I would say it's a little more like the best of the Clone Wars. And the reason I think that is the ensemble of characters in this show reminds me more of what was going on in the Clone Wars and like the chemistry to some extent, right? Like in the Clone Wars, you had Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka. In this particular show, you've got 3 Jedi. Master Saul, the guide or the leader. You've got Yord, who is this stiff, new, by-the-book Jedi. And then you've got Jeki, the Padawan, and the learner. And they have a great chemistry together. And then, of course, thrown into the mix, you have Osha. And I have to say, this is going to be a big spoiler if you have not watched the episodes yourself. Osha is the twin sister of the main villain, May. So yeah, there's definitely a darker, more serious tone like Andor, but I would say it's not quite as gritty as Andor. It's more like an amazing episode of the Clone Wars, and it was really enjoyable. And a few reasons why I found it enjoyable, as I mentioned, the chemistry between the characters are interesting, the story is super interesting, although I have a few thoughts on that, which I'll share in a minute. Beyond that, I noticed some really fun Star Wars-y things that just hit the spot for me. Number one, I noticed some of the spaceships were miniatures. There were a few scenes in particular where I thought to myself, that looks like it was done with a miniature. And that's so cool. And just the combination of using miniatures with modern effects and modern, computers and stuff, it's a great combo, and that was really fun for me. There were even moments where I almost felt like I was watching a play. It's got the look and feel of Star Wars, so that was really cool. Now, I mentioned the storyline. Here's something interesting. This was put out there as if it was going to be this mystery thriller, and they were asking the question, who's killing all the Jedi? And ironically, they let us know immediately who's killing all the Jedi. It's the character May, who is a Sith acolyte who has an axe to grind because of things that happened in her childhood. That's really not much of a mystery by the end of the first episode even. What is a mystery is who is the Sith or the dark side user the dark side force user who is behind all this? Who's the mastermind? And how deep does the conspiracy go? Like, is it just a couple of dark side users, or is there a whole organization? What all is happening in the underworld, in the shadows? And what is organizing itself to start to work against the Jedi? That's the more interesting thing. I'm curious to see if there are going to be some double agents, Jedi who are actually double agents. That would be a pretty cool plot twist. If I had to make a prediction, I would say the main bad guy, the main Sith Lord, is going to be someone new. At least I hope so. I did have the thought that perhaps Vernestra, who is the green Jedi with the crazy red, I don't know if they're tattoos or just markings that her species has on the top of her head. I wonder if that character would be someone behind the scenes or like a double agent. Personally, if I had to guess right now, I would say no. I would say she more represents the Jedi and their formality and how stiff they are and how maybe self-righteous they are, or how bureaucratic they've become, because she calls in Master Soul to have a meeting, and he's like, no, we're hot on the trail, we need to keep pursuing this. And she's like, no, we need to make a plan, and we need to yada yada yada. That might be the exact thing that the actual bad guy would want, to call off the investigation and mire everything in bureaucracy. Or it might just be how the Jedi are at this point. If I had to put my money on one option, though, I would say this is going to be a new character that we are going to learn about more or get hints about as the episodes progress. The concept of the show that was presented, this is a mystery. They didn't really draw the mystery out too much. It's like, okay, well, here's the assassin, and she has a twin sister. And so now it's more exploring the backstory, what really happened on that planet back in the day. What are these Jedi maybe covering or hiding? Who is the dark side user who is training acolytes and pulling the strings? And how deep does the conspiracy go? So those are the questions that come up in my mind. I was surprised that they killed off the Jedi Indra right away, right? She was played by the actress who played Trinity in The Matrix, and she was heavily featured in all the trailers. And then they went and killed her, like in the first fight sequence. So that was surprising, but again, it was refreshing. And I don't want to say I enjoyed watching her die, because that's just morbid, but I enjoyed the fact that it sent the message that this show is willing to take out some characters, and the stakes are high in this show. They presented her as a true Jedi Master, and she got beat in a battle, so that was cool. I also noticed that there were no stormtroopers, not one stormtrooper, and then I'm like, oh yeah, duh, of course, because the stormtroopers were created in the prequels, and so in this era, there are no stormtroopers, so that's interesting. And finally, I just have to say that the cute little robot that Osha goes around with is awesome. If you get a robotical sidekick, that is a sign that you are a true Star Wars hero. Just think back, all the main heroes have a sidekick. If you're a truly great hero, you probably have a robotical sidekick. So that's awesome. And I am really, really looking forward to more episodes. It was very refreshing. If you haven't watched the show yet, I highly recommend it. If you've been a bit disconnected from Star Wars, this is a perfect place to jump back into the Star Wars world. It doesn't depend at all on other Star Wars stuff, other than just the general rules of the Star Wars universe. Like, some people are born with this connection to the Force, and if they train, they can learn to use it. It gives them, kind of like psychic powers. They can move things with their minds. They can, fight incredibly, yada, yada, yada. Like, if you get the idea of a Jedi, you can watch this show and totally enjoy it, and it's awesome. And I also have a feeling there are going to be some little threads that might, connect to the original trilogy or to the prequels, but those will just be light strands, and you definitely will not need them to enjoy this fully. spiritual journeys are always at the center of Star Wars. Are you going to choose the light or choose the dark? Are you going to be consumed by anger or grief? Or are you going to choose to release and move forward? These are all spiritual journeys that happen in the Star Wars universe. And I think that Master Soul is the most interesting character, spiritually speaking, at this point. There was a comment made about him. These Padawans are lucky to have such a compassionate master. That caught my ear for a couple reasons. One, this is an era where the Jedi Order is becoming stiff as far as principles like detachment go, and stiff as far as their rules go, and maybe losing some of the heart behind them. And so Master Soul represents someone who understands how to let go, how to be impartial, how to be fair, how to let go of emotional entanglements, but at the same time, he retains that compassion that seems to be essential to the heart of the Jedi way and the heart of the light side of the Force. And that idea of the heart behind the rules, or the heart behind the ideology, or the heart behind the theology, that was very central to the message and ministry of Jesus. He was calling people back to the heart that was behind the Old Testament law, right? There's even a scripture that says, the law came through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And that sums up that idea. So, Master Soul's got an interesting story. I thought that quote was also interesting, and it also caught my ear because Palpatine and other Sith Lords in the past and other dark side people have said in the past that the compassion of the Jedi is their greatest weakness, and that's what you use against them, is their compassion. And it made me wonder if the Jedi who said that was like a double agent, and I believe it was Vernestra, the green, long-lived Jedi, made that comment. I still think that she's not going to turn out to be a double agent. Who knows? Maybe she would be a double agent. It would make for a great plot twist later, but we shall see. Hey, if you haven't liked or subscribed to the show yet, go ahead and do that. It really helps us out. And I am going to sign off. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.